In 1949, J.Krishnamurti, in a talk in Banaras, made this comment: modern education is a complete failure. Now, he was not the only thinker who held this opinion. Rabindranath Tagore and Sri Aurobindo in India, Maria Montessori and Rudolf Steiner in Europe, and even the American psychologist Howard Gardner with his theory of multiple intelligence all pointed out that modern education was addressing only a very, very small part of the human being. Now, 75 years later, are things the same? Are they worse or are they better? Clearly, things have taken for a turn for the worse. The student today is completely disinterested, bored, and there is a complete lack of creativity. So, this raises the question, what is the purpose of education? That in turn begs another question. Who is a human being? Because after all, it is the human being who is being educated. Now, just by mere observation, one can see that a human being is a composite of a physical body, of a psychological field which emanates from the brain, and a life energy that sustains both the body and the field of thought. Take any one away of these three and the human being doesn't exist. So you can't address only the body or only the thought when you address a human being. You have to address all the three: the body, the field of thought, and life energy. So must not education address all the three? If you look at the dictionary meaning of education, it says the process of receiving or giving instruction in a school, college, or university. And here begins the problem. Education has been assumed to be the communication of information through instruction. Another definition of education is the knowledge and skill that you acquire, especially in a college or university. Why does a student want to acquire knowledge or skills? It's only to earn a livelihood. So the whole focus of modern education has only been how to prepare oneself for a career and earn a livelihood. That is the only aspect of the human being that is addressed. Now, the 20th century can be called the golden age of employment. The Industrial Revolution created a demand for blue-collar and white-collar workers. Blue-collar workers are those who work with equipment, drive vehicles, do physical work. Until recently, blue-collar motor vehicle drivers did not even have to be literate. They were illiterate, but they drove all their motor vehicles. White-collar workers, on the other hand, are people who work in the office, primarily using the intellect, and the primary requirement for them was that they should have language skills. They should be able to read, write, draft, preferably in English, have some computing and accounting skills, and some analytical skills. Now, this the education system provided. Therefore, almost anybody who came through the system was able to get a job. And this created this illusionary idea that if you have a degree from a college or university, a job is assured. The 21st century has changed all that. Computing technology, artificial intelligence, and robotics have taken the ground away from under the feet. So, almost any task which a blue-collar or white-collar worker was doing in the 20th century is today done by the computer. At one time, it was thought that translation and computer programming was the exclusive domain of the human intellect. Today, you have computers which do simultaneous translation into multiple languages, something a human being cannot do. And computers are able to write code to operate computers. So even that field has gone. So what remains for human beings to be done? So at one level, there is opening for a very, very small number of highly qualified, highly intellectual positions at the top end. And for the very large masses, there is gig work, food delivery, driving taxis. This seems to be available. Can computers and AI replace human beings completely? This is a question that humanity faces, and it seems so, especially when you look at the fields of robotic surgery. Is there anything in the human being which cannot be replaced or replicated by computers, artificial intelligence, and robotics? There is. This life energy which keeps both the body and the human being alive cannot be replicated by a computer. And that is the area which is unique to human beings, and that is what the human being should be focusing upon. Unfortunately, modern education has completely ignored the person being educated, the human being. It has never asked what makes him tick. So, understanding the human being is the field of spirituality. And this word spirituality has been one of the most misunderstood words. In common thinking, spirituality is synonymous with religion, but there is no connect between the two. Religion is based entirely upon belief. Spirituality is based completely on observation and inquiry. And all learning depends on observation and inquiry. So common sense says spirituality should be the essence of education, but it has been completely omitted. Now, if we want to understand what is the role of spirituality and inquiry in education, we have to revisit the definition of learning. In modern education, learning is synonymous with the accumulation of information. And that is why instruction has become very important, because a teacher who is more experienced and has more information to impart can allow information to be communicated. But is the accumulation of information by itself, without seeing from what source it was accumulated, is that learning at all? And therefore you come to the two kinds of ways in which information is accumulated. Either it is first hand and direct through experience, or it is second hand, indirect, copying or repeating the discoveries of another person. Modern education, unfortunately, has relied almost completely on second hand information. Only a person who has actually discovered can understand for himself what is the difference between first hand and second hand information. So, in the process of encouraging just repetition of second hand information, modern education has completely eliminated creativity, interest, and passion. And these are qualities that are of life energy itself. So, the net result is the student is bored, he is disinterested, study becomes a chore. Now, both thought and computers work only in one way. They process information that already exists and project it as what they imagine things will be. AI computers can do this far better than and faster than human beings. Take an example. If you wanted to find prime numbers, how would you go about doing it? You would list all the numbers first, then you would eliminate multiples of 2, multiples of 3, multiples of all the remaining prime numbers. Whatever remains would be prime numbers. Now you could do this if you are talking of 100 numbers. But if you are talking of a million numbers or a billion numbers, it would take ages to do this manually. Computers can do that in seconds. Then when it comes to robotics, the most elementary or physical work which a human being did was to dig trenches. Today you have earth movers which are able to dig trenches kilometers per hour. No human being can communicate with that. So it comes back to asking this third dimension of the human being, the life energy which sustains both the body and thought. How does a human being build on that through education? Now we all know that people have insights. The person who built the jet engine, he studied the piston engine in enormous detail. Then he could put that information aside, and in that moment when information was put aside, the idea of the jet came into existence. Now, this is not unique to such inventors. Every single human being has an experience of this. When a student works with a problem, he keeps mulling over how to solve it, and suddenly he says, why didn't I think of that? That aha moment is the moment of insight. And this is the reason why the ancient adage said, if you have a problem, sleep over it. When you are asleep and the brain is quiet, there is space for intimations to come from deeper within the human being. If the intimation is coming from deeper within the human being, it has to be coming from that life energy itself. This we have left out completely in modern education. Instead, what we have done is divided the entire field of study into subject specialities and focused on very narrow areas. This is like putting blinkers on a horse so that the horse cannot look left or right. A human being cannot work like a computer which works sequentially. Human beings work laterally, and lateral exploration is something that must be allowed, because only then does insight and perception come about. All living ultimately comes from experience. So we have to ask, what is an experience? The experience comes when we get into contact with the world and sensations come to the brain. How do sensations come to the brain? We have chemical receptors in the eyes, in the taste buds, in the nose, and the skin has mechanical receptors, and these chemical and mechanical signals are transduced into electrical signals, and they are sent to the brain through the nervous system. So the brain is creating an image from these transduced electrical signals. That is not how the original sensation was. Therefore, the brain is creating an image, and today's neuroscientists are saying that all experiences are controlled hallucinations of the brain. But it is this hallucination which facilitates insight and perception to come. So if education has to be meaningful, we have to allow lateral thinking, exploration simultaneously with the study of academic subjects and skills, all the time asking, is the experience true? Is it real? Is it an illusion? And who is this person who is having the experience? Is he an entity or is he another illusion? These are the questions of spirituality, and unless they are woven into and integrated with education, education does not make any meaning.